welcome all of our attendees to this new format that we're doing. It's an introduction of TinyBox interviews. Now, the reason that I started this is because we have so many experts that we know through TinyBox, and I wanted to make sure we had videos that shared expertise in bite-sized pieces with real examples from real people with real stories, always bringing in somebody that may be business related and then an external contact. So I was really interested in coaching, and the reason is that I watched a TED Talk, and this was about a month ago. It was Atul Gawande, a surgeon at the top of his game, and he recorded a TED Talk titled, "Want to get great at something? Get a coach." So that's where the inspiration came from about, hey, do we have a strong corner? Do we have a strong coach? So here we have joining us today, Tina Rupprecht. She is also titled the Tiny Boxer, who achieves big things. And I'm going to let her tell her story. And we have Stefanie Peters, who introduced me to Tina, namely because we're called TinyBox and she's Tiny Boxer. And they have worked together in the past. And I would love you guys to introduce yourselves. But first of all, Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about why we want them to tell a backstory and how that's so important?
Why a backstory? A backstory is it's where we tell our story of trust. And why does a backstory build trust? I know sometimes storytelling has this sense of being fake, just a story, not the reality. But actually, backstories tell the moment when we realized what our purpose was. And there's this aha moment. And so for all of us, when we decide this is what I'm going to do, and Tina, I can't wait to hear yours, and Stefanie, I know yours a little bit, that's where we build the trust to, oh, that's why that person is so dedicated. So that's why we love backstories. And every superhero has a backstory, and every superhero has a mentor.
And we have two superheroes here. So why don't we start with Tina? Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? Because I find your story incredibly inspiring and it's very relevant to why coaching is so important in business.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Tiny Tina. And yeah, I started boxing at the age of 12. Today I'm 29. So I'm doing this for quite a long time, 17 years now. And as a child, I was always looking for a sport where I'm good at. And then, yeah, I found my passion in boxing. I just went to a training session and then I fell in love with this sport. And I had my first bout at the age of 15. And then I was 4 years in the German national team. And after that, I switched into professional boxing. And I'm doing this now for 6 years. And yeah, my dream was always to become a world champion. And I did a lot to achieve this goal. And in 2018, I realized this dream and I became world champion. And yes, now I defended my title 4 times. So the journey goes on. Yeah, this is only the first step. Thank you.
That's an incredible story. Absolutely incredible. I think I was not even close to being focused by 15 and you were already having your first bout. That's amazing. Stefanie, you come from a very different background, but also have achieved so many great goals. So why don't you share a little bit about your backstory?
Sure. And it's such an honor to be here at this wonderful session. I always call it the boxing ring because I feel especially honored to be here with Tina, where I'm so amazed of what she has achieved. I am a daughter of 2 teachers, sports teachers, actually. So some of the fitness and ambition I can definitely allude to. But my first coach, when I look back, really was my American nanny when I was 3 years old. She taught me my first words of English. She showed me that there's another world out there far away in America and told me lots of stories, which just opened my mind at that time to realize, you know, there's this excitement for this other world I had no clue about, and this other language, of course. Then at the age of 5, I had a swim coach because my parents thought I'm extremely talented at swimming. So I learned how to swim very early and won my first championship in my hometown as a 5-year-old in swimming, believe it or not. Then I found my sports, or maybe my parents rather, to become tennis. And I had several tennis coaches over a course of 10 years. If my dad had the say, I would have become Steffi Graf, but I'm not. I was not that talented, but I learned a lot through the tennis coaches and had a great experience with them to push me and so on. And then throughout my career, I also had a career coach to help me. And I think that was extremely helpful for me to help, switch my careers from a strategy consultant to supporting startups. So all my life, I have worked a lot with coaches in very different roles. Also in my belief, I would say Jesus, in many cases, is my best coach. So I've just experienced it's a variety of different people who can be a fantastic coach or mentor or trusted advisor to you. And that's important to me. It's not the specific situation of a certified coach. It's the role a person plays to be my trusted advisor.
What's interesting about that is actually coaching became a more popular term in the last 20 years, and then it became life coaches and all kinds of coaches, right? Not just business related coaches or sports related coaches. And so I think what has happened is a lot of other roles like advisor or mentor have become put in the bucket of coaches. And so now we have to expand our definition of what does a coach mean. And what I found interesting about your story, Stefanie, is how many coaches you've had. And Tina, you're the opposite. You've had one great coach for your entire coaching career, which is very unusual in business setting or for leaders. So I'd love to hear more about, how do you define coaching and what does that mean in sports versus in business? Because I think there's some very subtle differences.
Yeah, that's true. My coaching story is very different from Stefanie's because I met my coach when I was 12 years old, and I still have the same coach today. So our relationship is based on a deep trust, and he knows me very well. If anything is wrong, he sees that when I enter the gym before he even talks to me, and that's just, he knows me very, very well, and the relationship between us is it's very different because he is the boss, and he tells me what to do, and if we have a training session, then he says do this, do that, and I just have to say yes, okay, yeah, you are the coach and I'm doing what you tell me to do. And he always says if one day is the time when I say what to do in training, then he has to retire because then he's not the boss anymore. And that's I think that's typical in sport, that maybe especially in boxing, but as a sportsman, you always have to do what your coach is telling you to do.
Well, we were making the joke in one of our prepper sessions about how if you don't follow what he does, then you're going to get knocked out. So probably it's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
But I think you refer to something much deeper there, and that's the trust that you have after so many years of working with that one coach. So, I don't think one answer is the right answer or wrong answer, but it is interesting to me that he knows you so well. So do you expect from him that he would give you straight talk rather than the pretty words? Because often coaching in a business sense is, start with something positive and then move into the harder talk, right? So how does that work for you and your coach? Do you get straight talk, or is it?
I do. I get straight, but I need both. And he can handle that very well in a balance. So sometimes he must be hard, but he knows how I react on him. And it always depends on the situation. When do I need what? And I think that makes a great coach, that he doesn't know only what to say, but how to say. And that's the difference.
That's a great point, actually. I really like that. Stefanie, when it comes to business, we talk about them being partners and enablers. And what I think is relevant here is what Tina said about if you tell me what to do, then I need to retire, because often we need more than one coach on different aspects of our life. Like if it's a career coach, you need somebody a couple of levels above you to show you how to progress in your career. Whereas if it's a life coach, it's a different story. So how would you view that? What type of coaching have you received that has been relevant to you in different aspects of your life?
Yeah. And I can fully see the point of straight talk. And I would also say that anything that has to do with sports is more of a straight talk, because you want to be pushed and motivated and, you know, help you go through and follow through the discipline you need to improve. In business, it's often very different. And the coaches I have had that were most valuable, maybe at that time were not even perceived by me as the greatest coaches, because they were a little tougher, or they told me straight, you know, oh yeah, you have this syndrome of being a little girl who wants to please everyone. This once a coach told me, and that was a little bit shocking, but that brought me further. That really got me to reflect, this little shock of, this is how she sees me, you know, a little girl syndrome of wanting to please everyone. What does that mean? And I really learned from that in hindsight, because she encouraged me to switch from 7 years of strategy consulting with a big brand and, you know, a great firm and a good career to doing my own thing. And I ended up supporting startups. So in the end, it's sometimes like with teachers, you're more grateful for coaches who at that time maybe felt a little bit tough, because they used straight talk, or they pointed you to your weak spots and not only gave you, you know, the pretty words around what you're good at, but that they are the ones who really help you and drive impact. And that's exactly how I feel today as an enabler. I don't consider myself a coach, but an enabler and a trusted advisor. I say bluntly, I only want to be paid for my very honest feedback. I'm not giving pretty words if straight talk is needed. And I'm not, you know, being super polite if it's important to show the client that there is a clear weakness or a clear threat ahead here. And I think having this balance, building the trust by being honest and authentic, is in the end the most important and the most valuable.
So Laura, I'm going to have you just speak for one moment, because I think there is a fine line that you guys are both referring to, and that's the trust factor. And I would like Laura to just drop a little bit of input in that, because, you know, straight talk is fine if it's coming from somebody that has already built trust in you, in my experience. But if it's straight talk from somebody you have no relationship with, then it's going to have a different vibe to it, right? So Laura, maybe you have some perspective on that.
Raj, I've worked with you before at TinyBox on leadership training or leadership conferences. And there we found that one of the key aspects of leading teams today, especially when we need to move quickly, have agile processes, and to innovate, is to have the trust to try things, the trust to move forward. And I think, Stefanie, you have also said that having someone who believes, who is optimistic in your ability to reach a vision, and who says, you can do it, go ahead, even with something that seems like a tremendous challenge, that's where this trust comes in. And so you need to have that trust with a coach, a lot of it, a consultant, a mentor, anyone who's going to be an advisor to you, you'll be looking for reasons to trust that advisor. And I think one of the big questions is, how do you choose a coach? Like I'm even wondering for Tina, did you choose your coach at that young age, or did your coach choose you?
Good question.
It's a good question. I think it was maybe I chose him because when I went first time to the gym, my coach was like, oh, this little girl, she's 12 years old. I only teach boys and men. That's men's sport, boxing. And then he saw that I'm really, I really wanted, and I'm really focused, and I trained so hard. And then he accepted that. And then he began to train with me, and he saw my potential, and he developed a vision for me, and I had the vision myself. And then, yeah, he supported me in that way. And then we got one team, and still today. So, but without him, I think I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. I wonder, why is there even such a stigma against coaching specifically in Germany? I've noticed it and heard about it from others, when in Germany, there's so much interest in sports. And of course, you would never expect a football team to move forward to a championship without a great coach?
Good
Any
question.
insight?
I think it's a very good point. I think it's a little bit the notion of a coach. In German, you don't say coach for your sports coach. In English, yes, but ein Trainer, you know, and trainer is not a coach. So the certified coach notion that has come up in the past decade is sometimes somebody who has no idea of your business, who only asks you questions. And I don't mean it in any negative way. I see a lot of value in there, but for the typical business mindset, the German Vorstand, somebody who doesn't have the position of understanding where he is, also in the contents, in the strategy, in the background of his business, is difficult for some people to have respect for, you know. And the typical, at least it's my perception in Germany, is the coaching is too soft for most people. It's too much. I listen to you and I ask a few questions, but the answer lies already within you. And I think that's very far away from the typical business person. And that's why I think the notion of business coaching has emerged, you know, business coaching in terms of understand you. I also come from business, but I'm helping you to get to the next level in your career or in your, you know, growing the business is already much better. I think it was really, it's a matter of perception of wording. That's why I try to talk about enabling, being a trusted advisor, being a good sparings partner. And that goes for both, for the sports and for the business. And that puts you on an eye level, you know, and I think that's important to understand.
I don't know if I would want to be Tina's sparring partner.
That's right.
I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be. I have a quick question for you. So one of the things I opened with was saying that Atul Gawande did this TED Talk. And what I really love is in the details of this TED Talk, he says, having a good coach provides a more accurate picture of our reality, breaks down our actions and helps us build them back up again. It's not how good you are, but how good you could be. And I love that you refer to that as well, Laura. And I guess that's where again, I'll come back to Tina about this, is that, what have you achieved with a coach that you wouldn't have achieved otherwise? Is there a story in particular that you'd like to share with us? And then I'm going to talk about both of you and how you've moved into actually becoming coaches and why that's important as well. So Tina, why don't you share with us? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's one story.
I mean, other than 4-time world champion, how tall are you? 5 foot?
152. So
152 centimeters.
5 feet.
Okay, so other than that amazing feat,
thank you. It was when I was 24, and there was a point in my life where the boxing didn't work very well because I had no fights and there were no opponents and I had no perspective, and I wondered myself, why am I doing this? Why I'm getting all my time into it, all my energy, and all my friends, they were traveling around the world, and after one training session, I talked to my coach and I told him, I always say to him, not his name, I say always Trainer. And I told him, Trainer, I want to quit boxing because I don't see a sense anymore and I want to travel around the world like my friends do. And he could understand, but then we talked about 3 hours, and the end of the story is I was sitting there and crying, and he told me, give me 1 year to try everything what is possible to get you fights and to come to the top. And he convinced me to try to go on for just 1 year. And he said, if in 1 year nothing happens, then I let you go, do what you want. And I agreed to that. And I said, okay, just 1 year. We go on, we continue, and in that 1 year, he did everything. He organized fights for me, and at the end of this year, I had my first title fight. And this shows that without him, I wouldn't be a champion today. I would have stopped boxing, but he
amazing,
and he had the vision that he saw that I can achieve it. So just
Yeah.
kicked my ass.
I think it goes further than that, actually. Yeah, well, kicked your ass. You mean you kicked other people? But what I think is so great about that is that it was not some obscure vision. And I think that's also another thing that becomes a bit soft with people, is that that wasn't just an obscure vision. He set a goal, he had a plan, and he helped you achieve it because he followed through the steps of the plan. And I think that's a really core element that relates to business and why it's so important for us to be cheerleaders even in business, right? Because he was your cheerleader, right, Tina? I mean, he basically gave you the energy and the commitment himself that he would get you there. And that's incredible. And so, Steffi, I'd love to hear from you if you've got a story to share with us. But I think that's exactly how it relates to business, doesn't it? We do projects all the time in business that need goals and skills.
Yep. Yeah. My story would rather be sometimes my most significant coach was a personal coach, like really with the coaching experience on a more psychological level, because I had some personal issues in the family where I felt that really bothered me in the times where I was already a freelance consultant with startups. So I was very happy with what I did professionally, but I was really unhappy with the situation in the family, and that would always stumble over situations I couldn't get. And this coach helped me. We immediately connected. We didn't know each other very well, but we immediately connected. I trusted her because I have observed her at a certain situation where I felt like she's the right one for me. And she was the perfect mirror. She told me, you know, the person you have problems with in your family, I'll give you now the perception of how she will perceive you. And that was the most important thing for me, to get a mirror and understand, oh gosh, yeah, this is why she behaves that way. And this is why she makes these comments. It's not about me. It's about, you know, the dynamics between us. And that was so eye-opening for me. And it helped me to be so much more self-aware and confident and souverän, as we say in German, to say, yeah, that will always happen again, that there are some people who have an issue with me, not because I'm Stefanie Peters, but because I'm sparkling, or I'm giving them something. I have to live with that. I just have to be myself and not try to please others so much, than just be myself. And that was the start of gaining the confidence to found my own company. Before, I was a freelance consultant like 1,000 others. And then when my co-founder asked me, don't you want to start that company? I felt like, yes, I can do it. I've overcome also these personal hurdles. Now we are ready to found. And that was a big step for me.
Up with Tina, because we've got 6 minutes left. I think that's a great way to segue into why you are now coaching others and what message you would give people as an aspirational takeaway or core tips, and why they should also consider coaching somebody who maybe needs their experience. So why don't you go ahead and combine those pieces together however you like, and share with us your top tips.
Yeah,
and then Tina, I'll come to you after.
My observation really is that the more confident you are about yourself, self-aware, or souverän, as we say in German, the more you are willing to have somebody to support you, a coach, a mentor, a trusted advisor. I think it's really a sign of strength to, at a certain point, say, I've achieved that, I've reached that point, I'm really good at and I enjoy, but to go the next step, or as typically our clients, to move into this challenging field of digitalization, of digital transformation, to change the culture of my entire organization, that's now a thing where I need support. I think it should be perceived, and it is for me, a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness. And so my last message would be, if you want to grow personally, professionally, both hopefully, find a coach who can help you develop new skills, gain new perspectives, or provide you with valuable shortcuts. Then you can grow further.
I keep muting myself so I don't have any background noise, but that's fantastic. And, you know, it's funny because I will say that as I was working at the bank, one of the first things they told me when I joined TD Bank was that you must have 2 mentors or coaches. That was the first thing they tell you. We're going to set you up with a professional one, and it will be somebody within the company that's 2 levels higher than you, and you need a personal one. And they also suggested that they be different genders so that you get this perspective from both the male, female, whomever. And it's always internal and external. So I really like that you use the personal coaching as well. We do have a question from the audience that I'm going to ask before I continue on to Tina's final takeaways. Do you think it makes sense to have separate coaches for professional and personal dimensions of one's life? So clearly I just answered a little bit of that. But I think what we found with the pandemic is that you can't split the personal and professional so much these days, right? Would you, Stefanie or Tina, would you have any input on that? And then Tina, I'll come back to you for your aspirational takeaways, okay? So who would like to answer Norbert's question? Does it make sense to have separate coaches?
I would say it depends. Yes, it makes sense if you have already one coach and you feel like, no, that's not the person I would want to share my personal issues with. It could even be the same person. But I would say instead of not, you need to cover the fields where you really see that you need a coach, that you could get some help, cover them. And if you have a person in mind who comes up out of your friends, out of your family, use them. I'm currently coaching my, sister-in-law, in something where she just feels I'm the right sparings partner for her. It doesn't always need to be a professional coach, but find the right person for that situation. And before it gets too mixed up, I can't imagine my tennis coach being my business coach, there are different fields of expertise.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is what's interesting is that it depends is a very good answer, but one of the goals that I've always heard about coaching is find somebody who's doing what you want to do and is doing it well, and then go learn from them. So whether that's boxing or tennis or business, then find that person who's doing what you do exceptionally well and ask them to coach you. And LinkedIn makes it so much easier. We've talked about this a lot between our business colleagues, because you can reach out to people you normally wouldn't reach out to, and they will usually respond and say, okay, let's have a quick chat and see if this works. And then you define your coaching relationship. Tina, I want to take the last minute with you. Do you have an aspirational message you'd like everyone to take away? And if you want to add on to that aspect of it depends, then please do. Yes. We've got 1 minute left, so it's all you.
No, I just want to give you an example from boxing, because boxing is an individual sport. You stand alone in the ring and you have to fight for your own. There's no one that can help you. But after each round, you go back to your corner, and in the corner there's your coach, and he tells you what to do. And maybe, for example, one round was bad and you lost that round. You can win the next because he tells you the steps how to do it. And of course, you are alone, but in the corner, they gave you a feeling of safety and trust. And there's someone in the corner who believes in me, and that makes you strong. And that's just what I want to give you.
A strong corner, that was the name. Thank you, Tina, because a strong corner is exactly the title of the session, and you totally nailed it. And we're at 7:30 now, so we're not going to go over. Thank you for joining. Boxer or leader, everyone benefits from being a coach. I think that's very clear. So thank you for joining. This will be on YouTube, and I'll be sharing the links underneath the YouTube, and I'll share it with everybody who was on the call. Thank you so much, Stefanie, Tina, and Laura, for joining us. This was our kickoff, so yay.
Thank you. That's great.
Take care.
Ding, ding. We need the bell. Ding, ding, ding.
Bye.
Bye.